Thanks for joining the show today. Excited about today's conversation. We'll be speaking with Blake Atwood, who is a ghostwriter, editor, book crafter extraordinaire. That's a good way to put that. So, Blake, thanks for joining the show. Tell everybody, kind of give them your kind of 30, 60-second story, kind of how you got into books and what that all looks like.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me on the show. I am, as you said, a ghostwriter and editor. I work only in nonfiction. I don't think I'm smart enough to write fiction. I'm impressed by people who can write fiction. My claim to fame is that I got to work on an early version of Atomic Habits by James Clear, small book that a lot of people have bought. And then more recently, I got to work as a book coach for Jefferson Fisher, and his book is The Next Conversation. And actually just today, was announced that his next book got picked up by his publisher. It's called Difficult People. And I might get to help him on that one too. So I spend my days just helping really impressive people make their books. And I get to work with a lot of interesting people. And really at the core of it, like what we're going to talk about today, is technology. Like you and I are sitting here and talking. You're in Houston. I'm in Dallas.
Yep.
And we get to do this because of all the technology that we pretty much take for granted all the time.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that I think your listeners should know, Jeff and I have known each other all of our lives.
Yes. Quite a long time. Yeah.
We are cousins.
Yes.
We grew up together.
Yep.
Maybe he antagonized me a whole lot growing up, but I probably needed it because I was the nerdy little kid always reading books. And so I appreciate that. And I'm just grateful that like we still have a good relationship as adults.
Absolutely.
Great.
No, I totally agree.
That.
It's been cool to watch some of the stuff. I mean, obviously like both of us going in different directions from a career standpoint and things like that. It's been amazing to watch because I've read both of the books, Atomic Habits and The Next Conversation, and both of the books are phenomenal. So anybody that is looking for information about habits or how to communicate better with other people, both of those books are truly phenomenal and worth picking up and reading. So, So quickly, before we kind of get into everything else, I want to try and change this up just a little bit because we did another recording earlier and it kind of spurred a thought in me. So what is the tell us, actually, let me put it this way. Tell me something that's not on your resume about you.
I don't even know if you know this. If you know this, it's been a while.
Okay.
I was once an extra on Friday Night Lights, the show.
Oh, wow. That's funny. It seems like I vaguely remember that, but that's hilarious.
Yeah. The only episode that I'm in, you wouldn't know it if you watched it, if I didn't tell you where I was, is that the coach's like baby daughter, I think, is getting christened at a church. And so I was at the church, but you only see the back of my head, and it's when I had hair.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. Good, man. That's hilarious. I like vaguely remember that, but like, no, that's hilarious. That's a good one. What was your one takeaway from that experience? Was it a good experience? Was it a bad experience?
Oh, it was super interesting. Because they sat me next to like a semi-regular of the show.
Yeah,
like he was an important character. He wasn't one of the main characters, and this guy was sitting on the end of the pew. A woman was sitting next to him, and then I was sitting next to the woman. Yeah. And the producers came up to me and said, "Hey, can you switch?" And I was like, "Okay, fine." So they wanted me to sit next to the guy, and they said, "Well, he has a storyline that he might be getting involved with the coach's wife, not to give away the show."
Okay.
So they couldn't have him next to her.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, that's a pretty interesting, like, that's how detailed you have to get with creating television, creating stories.
Yeah. Stories.
So it was like my little interesting note.
That's a really good one.
And I said, how dare you tell me what to do? I'm a professional background actor.
I'm a professional extra. Professional pew sitter. That's awesome. Over the last few years, how do you feel like the process of writing itself has changed with some of the technology stuff that's going on? So like obviously Grammarly is one of those, and AI, and there's all of these other different pieces, like collaborating over, sharing files via Google Docs and some of those kind of things. How do you feel like writing has changed over the last 5-10 years?
That's a heavy question. I mean, it's gotten simpler because you can type in, I don't know, 3 words into Chat GPT and have a book. So it's super easy. And it has picked up just this year. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, but it's picked up just this year that I've received early drafts that were mostly AI generated. And at least with this iteration of specifically like ChatGPT 4, I think it's on 5 now.
Yeah, it is.
But like with 4, I could tell if it was, if nobody like really did custom prompts, I could tell that it was AI generated. And with all of my clients, I have conversations up front. Did you use AI? Tell me how. Because I just need them to be, I don't want to guess. I need them to be honest with me.
Yeah.
And
how far are you going to have to dig to find out, is this really written the way that it's supposed to be? Is it really?
Yeah. And so it's made it really easy to like do these early drafts, but it's a little bit like AI slop. I've heard that term used, and it's pretty generic. It's not, it's not thinking deeply. And so it's losing out on like the creativity. But I also think that when you do that, you lose out on, man, just the clarity of ideas that you can get when you really apply yourself to writing something like a book.
Yeah. Something
it forces you to think through all the issues. It forces you to be clear. And you lose out on a lot of the creativity that comes with it too. So I feel like it's, yes, gotten easier and harder at the same time.
Yeah. I think the AI piece that you mentioned is very accurate. I think that if you just say, write a book, here's the topic, here's the main point that I want to make, and you just cut it loose, like it'll write something for you, but however, you can tell and you can feel the difference between like something that is very robotically structured and like was just kind of cobbled together from excerpts from other things and rewording of other, articles or other books or whatever. Right. But to your point, like you can kind of read through some of those things and know like, oh, this is, whatever, like this is just kind of something that somebody said, write me a book on this topic, and it just spit it out. Right. With self-publishing and like print on demand technology becoming more and more available and accessible, do you think traditional publishing still holds kind of the same power that it did at one point in time? Or do you feel like maybe that's the divide between like a higher quality versus, just that's getting something out the door? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The quick answer is yes, traditional publishing still has its power. But I want to qualify that in a minute. I knew we were going to talk about this, and I found some stats that I thought were really interesting. So, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. And I wouldn't know these answers. I wouldn't have known these before. So how many books do you think are traditionally published in the U.S. in a year?
100,000.
500,000 to 1 million.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then in traditionally published, so there's what's called the big 5 publishers. And so that's like Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, HarperCollins, I'll just name them all, Hachette, Macmillan. Okay. And then when we're talking about traditional publishers, it's not just the big 5. It also includes trade publishers. It includes a lot of smaller ones. So the big 5 just last year published around 35,000 titles. And how many? So we have total 500,000 to 1 million traditionally published. How many do you think are self-published in a year?
Jeez, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's hard to know too, but I did pull this.
Yeah, I mean, if the average is 500,000 to 1 million, say 400,000 to 800,000,
3 million, 3 million. And I don't even know if that probably doesn't include like all the AI drafted, written, published books. So I won't make you guess this. in a typical year, traditionally published books earn about $18.7 billion, and self-pub books earn about $1 to $3 billion.
Wow.
So you can see that like there's an inverse relationship. Like traditionally published, there are fewer books, but they earn more.
Yeah.
That's typically because traditional publishing has all the distribution that self-publishing doesn't have. So that's one reason I would say it's.
I would imagine it's the
powerful.
Yeah, I would imagine it's not only the distribution, but also the marketing. Of the book itself, right?
Yeah.
But that is very interesting for sure.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
The other thing is that like all the publishers, I didn't know this until I looked into it. I thought this was fascinating. There have been mergers over the years, but all of the major publishers are like really old. Penguin started in 1935. Random House started in 1927. They merged. HarperCollins, Harper started in 1817. Collins started in 1819.
Wow.
Simon and Schuster started in 1924. Hachette started in 1826. Macmillan started in 1843. So like these institutions have staying power, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they really know how to adapt to the times.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point, right? So over time, like this, I think speaks to the relationship between technology and storytelling in general, right? Yeah. So whether it's storytelling or advertising, or just in general, like to your point on the stuff you're doing, like nonfiction, whatever the thing is, right? The message is basically the same. It's the words that you're speaking. It's, like in this case, it's the audio and the video that we're doing, it's the conversation that we're having. But over time, like I would imagine, like they have, moved on with what they're doing, and they've changed the way that they do business, and how much of their sales are digital now, like how much of it is audiobooks, right? Like all of these things that as technology has progressed and it's given people the availability to do these other things, they've just leaned into that technology to further their business, for the next however many years, right? Mm-hmm. That totally makes sense. But that's really surprising. I had no idea that they were that old.
I didn't either.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I would say too, the thing I would want to qualify is that that doesn't mean that if you're an author that you should only pursue traditional publishing. Yeah, there are definite reasons for someone to self-publish. There are definite reasons for someone to hybrid publish, which is kind of like the in-between between self-publishing and traditional publishing. Yeah. Like you just have to really know what your goals are for your book. Yeah. And there are many benefits to self-publishing and hybrid publishing. There are many drawbacks too. And so I had a blog post. It's not up anymore. Actually, it might be up on therightlife.com. I think I wrote about this, but it's old now. Just about all the trade-offs. Like, if you self-publish, you're probably not going to be in bookstores. It's really hard to get into bookstores if you're self-published. Yeah. But you make more money per book that you sell. And you maintain like all creative control. Yeah. So those are some of the things to think through.
I would imagine too that like kind of the intent for that is different. It's going to be different for different people, right? Yep. If you're trying to get to the masses and you're trying to get a message that affects millions of people in the world, and you're trying to get it in front of millions of people, going the traditional route of finding a publisher, going through that whole process, doing all the things that you have to do, right? Probably makes a lot of sense. If your objective is, I am an expert in this one field, and I want to put the information that I've garnered over the last 30 years of my career, 20 years of my career, whatever, I want to put that information into my clients' hands, into my customers' hands. I want to make it a loss leader to get customers to come in, right? It's the whole thing of like, give all the knowledge away for free and sell the implementation, right? Because most of the time people are, even if they read what you're doing, they're reading it so that they can understand what they're paying for when they have somebody else do it. It's not that they're going to go out. There are some people who are just going to go out and do it themselves regardless. Like that just happens, right? But 90% of the time they want the knowledge to be able to understand and to be able to feel good about what they're paying for, right? In their whole situation, right? So if I'm building a conference room for somebody and somebody wants to know about the technology that's going into a conference room, they want to feel comfortable about it because they want to feel good about the money that they've spent on it, and then it's going to accomplish what they want to do, right? But they're not actually going to go out and build it. They're still going to want somebody to do that most of the time. it's interesting, I think, in some of that, just the way that, like what we're doing now, like you mentioned earlier, like being in totally different locations and being able to record this and do all the things that we're doing now. I think that has definitely opened the path for people to collaborate on books, to collaborate in general, even more, now than ever. Right. Yeah. Especially like if you're, creating files and sharing things via AI, or whether it's in like a Google Docs or any of those kind of apparatuses like that I think it just gives people a lot of options to be able to collaborate, to be able to communicate and share thoughts and ideas and, that kind of thing. So
to that point, just in the last year, I've had a client based in Thailand, a client based in Israel, and a client based in Spain.
That's awesome.
No way we would have been able to connect even 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been so great to be able to like help authors around the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it broadens what you're doing and it gives you the second. And we've talked about this a couple of times in previous shows with other guests, about the technology that you're using being a force multiplier, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the one to many, right, of like software recording, right? What used to be print, right, or paper, where you'd print off a bazillion flyers and you'd take them everywhere, right? Now you basically make that, graphic message, whatever it is that you're trying to put out there, and can put it on socials. You can put it on, whatever the thing is, and you can send it out to literally like billions of people potentially, and not have any kind of ongoing like print cost to do that. Mm-hmm. Physical piece, it's all, zeros and ones and all that fun stuff. So, what is your favorite book around leadership or business over the last little bit?
Yeah. I can't, you can never ask somebody in publishing like to name one favorite. Cause it's like, I mean, Jeff, who's your favorite kid?
Yeah.
Don't answer that live if you have an answer.
I won't. They're all my favorite.
Exactly. No, so I'll name three that I really liked. The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman was really instrumental to me because I did not go to business school, and I was fortunate to marry somebody who did. She is a CPA, and I would not have a solo business were it not for her, because she knows what it takes. Like I'm kind of like the creative guy, and she is how are we going to make income this month?
How am I paying for my house?
Exactly. I got to go back to Disney.
You're right. Yeah.
They actually just went, FYI. So anyways, Personal MBA, really helpful as like a business school crash course. Yeah. And I read that a couple years ago when I went back into full-time freelancing. It really is like one I should probably reread every year. The other one that I read more recently that I really haven't implemented yet, and this is another one I need to go back to, is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's a lot about delegation.
Yep.
Highly recommended. And then just like a story if you want to be encouraged. And I initially read this because it was actually ghostwritten by a ghostwriter I respect and really like the way he writes. Yeah. The book is called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. So Phil Knight was the founder of Nike.
Yeah.
Just a really, good business lessons, well written. Yeah,
that's awesome. What do you think is the one factor in writing a book that makes the biggest difference? Is it more time on the front end? Is it
great question?
Is it being willing to, let the creative process kind of run? So like, when somebody comes in and they're working with you, being open to potential changes or modifications, is it like, what do you feel like is, or it could be multiple things, but what do you feel like is one thing that sticks out as like, this really helps books be more successful, more clear in the messaging, whatever?
This is a really hard question for me to answer. Because I would say it can never just be one thing. And even looking at a book in hindsight, you know, you can't necessarily point to like, well, it was the cover design.
Right.
And that's part of it. The title, the in-house editor, the marketing, the platform that the author had already created before they launched the book.
Yeah.
And it also kind of depends on how you're defining success for the book. Like, does it sell a ton, or is it well written, or is it just connecting with the people that it needs to connect with? Right. Or is it leading to more opportunities for the author?
Right.
See, I'm still dodging the question because I feel like it's such a difficult one to answer. I would say, having a clear vision for what the book should be up front is very helpful, but it doesn't, I would say it rarely happens. I work on a lot of books that I come in at the end, and it's not quite like it's good. It's not great. And hopefully with my encouragement, and sometimes my challenging of the author, that I get them to go to that next level. And sometimes that means like restructuring the whole thing. It means looking at, I think the problem that a lot of authors I work with is that they are experts and they are so in the weeds of what they know, but they want to write a book to people who know little about what they know. Yep. And so I play the middleman of like, how can we translate all of this like knowledge, expert insight that you know, so that anybody can understand it and appreciate it and apply it. And so I think that's where a lot of, at least in the terms of the work I do, where a lot of the assistance comes in. Yeah.
Well, it's the whole thing of, you know, to like, tell me how to do this if I was like 8 years old, right? Yeah. It's like, explain this to me in a way that like anybody can understand, right? Don't get it. And we run into this, you know, technology side. We talk about, you know, creating very clear expectations and understanding the scope of a project ahead of time and really drilling down and understanding the requirement from the client and what it is that they're looking for. And, you know, all of those kind of things, right? Really drilling into that so that we know, okay, here's what we're thinking about. Like, here's what the end goal is. Like at the end of this, I want this system or this room or this thing to do X, Y, or Z. In the case of books, I want this book to tell this story and reach this many people, right? It was funny. I remember watching an interview from Robert Kiyosaki, where he was talking about his books, and he was talking to another author, and the other author was asking, well, how do I forget what the gist of the conversation was, but his whole point at the end of the conversation was, I'm a best-selling author, and there's a selling piece to that's crucial to, like, if I'm writing a book to sell a bazillion copies, well, like to your point, the title means something, the cover means something, you've really got to put some thought into some of those things so that it does stir some kind of a reaction in people so that they go out and buy it, or they go out and listen to it, or, you know, whatever it was. So, that's super interesting. What is your favorite, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a book, but what is your favorite thought around technology, but from a writing standpoint? Like, what do you feel like, what tools do you feel like have helped you the most? What learning or knowledge did you pick up from something else that really helped you with that from a technology standpoint, as far as training or courses or any of that kind of stuff?
I can suffer from shiny object syndrome when it comes to technology. I'm like, oh, there's a new app that I should try. Yeah. There's something else that I think will help me in my business or in my writing. But in the last couple of years, I was influenced by the book Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. Highly recommended. And a little bit, I think, of the book Essentialism. Greg McKeown, I believe. And just like really paring back, like figuring out what are the tools that I absolutely need. Let's just get really good at those. And so, I mean, and I even did this lately, looking at my operating expenses and some of the things I'm paying for. I'm like, do I really need this? And so I cut some things which felt good. In terms of like the apps that I rely on, I use Google Docs, I use Microsoft Word. It's almost necessary for what I do. I really like Scrivener, which I don't think enough authors use because it's a little bit like Photoshop for authors in terms of it's really powerful, but there's a learning curve to really get good at it. But I just really like that for, especially if I'm ghostwriting a book, I have to use that. And then I've used Todoist for a long time as my to-do list, but now I'm even using it more, I would say. Yeah. I recently started listening to, I always butcher this title, Every Tool is a Hammer. Every Hammer is a Tool. I'm not sure which way it goes. And it's by, why am I blanking on it? It's the Mythbuster guy. It's one of the myths, Adam Savage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's kind of an older book and somebody recommended it to me. I'm like, I'm not a builder. You know, Jeff, you know this. I'm not a builder. I can't make anything. I can make books. That's it. So at first I was like, well, he builds stuff. Why am I interested? But the first couple of chapters were so fascinating and I found lots of connections for just creating in general. Yeah. And then he has a whole chapter on to-do lists. And I was like, why am I not like really getting into that? So that's a kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
But I found that super helpful.
Useful. Yeah. No, I totally get that. As far as books go, I can remember because I think you're the one that actually recommended it to me in the beginning anyways, but the book, The War of Art.
Oh yeah.
By Stephen Pressfield.
Yes.
That is a fantastic book. And I went into it reading it with the thought process of around art, around books, around music, like the whole creative thing, which is a large portion of what the book is focused on, right? Because he is a writer, right? Mm-hmm. But there are so many things that like cross over into business, into how you run what you're doing, how you work on your business, how you like get in and do the thing that you need to do, focus on the thing that you need to do, right? Like there's just so much in there that you could, talk through and talk about. Let's see what, I'm going to use the two kind of the big ones at this point, but what do you feel like were the two different takeaways from your working relationship with Jefferson and I'm blanking on his name.
James Clear.
Yes, James Clear. Thank you. I appreciate that. What were the two big takeaways from the two of them?
James, I always appreciated, and I wish I had this committed to memory, but I'm getting older. But he once wrote in an email that he wanted the book to be readable. He wanted his readers to finish the book because people don't typically recommend a book that they haven't finished.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really good insight. And part of that conversation was we were discussing chapter length. And this is almost it's almost a rule for me. I don't try to hold too religiously to it, I guess, of like a good chapter length for a prescriptive nonfiction book like Atomic Habits, about 4,000 to 5,000 words, because it's like substantive, but you can get through that pretty quickly. And hopefully if you structure it correctly, it makes you want to read the next one. So it's, it's a bit like a page turner.
I mean, I would think too, like there's got to be some logic to the fact that if you can't explain it in 4,000 to 5,000 words, then you don't understand it well enough.
That's a good point. It's very well said.
To a certain extent, like if you're having to spend, 20,000 words explaining something that you should be able to do in like 1,000.
Yeah.
That there's a whole other piece to that, I think, from a learning and somebody picking it up, but that makes sense. So,
yeah. And then with Jefferson, and this is something I've struggled with like my entire writing life, is that he showed me like an economy and a simplicity of language to where he was already an excellent communicator. Like that's why he blew up on social media, is because he knows how to communicate, like just in really short, soundbite, memorable, simple, clear language. Yeah. And he worked that into his book. And anytime I'm writing now, I just thought about this. anytime I'm writing now and I feel like I'm getting to like English majory because I want to use that word that, you know, is going to impress people.
Mm-hmm.
There is a part of me that says WWJD. What would Jefferson do?
That's funny.
Which is, I think, is great because it forces me to like simplify and clarify, because it's like what we said before. Like, we're trying to speak to a lot of people, so let's do the best that we can to not confuse them.
Yeah.
Like, use the right word that you need.
Yeah.
But make it clear.
Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, the big thing, you know, that I've being in the corporate world, you know, and having done this in large organizations and things like that. Like, there are times where you get an email that's might as well be a book, and it's like, this could have been like, you know, 3 sentences and could have been done, right? But it's that whole thing of like, we feel like if we over communicate and use words that we feel like make things whatever, and like 90% of the time, like, none of that's really called for. I mean, there is a place for like beautiful words and beautiful art and, you know, all of the rest of that kind of thing. But like, at some level, you've got to be able to communicate, you know, like you were talking about, you've got to be able to break things down, because not everybody's going to be an expert in book writing. In your case, not everybody's going to be an expert in technology. In my case, not everybody's going to understand these things, but you've got to be able to break them down at least to the place where you can communicate them to the broadest audience possible so that everybody understands. Right. And you make it as simple as possible. So, no, it totally makes sense. What, speaking of Jefferson, you mentioned him blowing up on socials. And I think this is an interesting phenomenon. Like, social media has been around for a while now, right? So like, you had kind of the rise of a lot of quote unquote influencers and artists and other people who've blown up on one platform or another. And I think it's just basically, like we were talking about earlier, with the publishers, like the technology changing, the social media platform changing, so people's tactics change, the way that they do things changes. How, in today's world, if you're writing a book, what does the social media aspect of that look like? And how have you seen people, what's the number one thing that people should be doing that they're not on socials? And what's the one thing that people are doing that they shouldn't be doing on socials when it comes to books, just books in general and writing books?
I think I can answer both questions with one answer. I think.
Okay.
And maybe this just speaks to my issues with social media, is trying to be on all the platforms.
Right.
And thinking that you need to be everywhere, as opposed to what you should do, especially if you're just by yourself. Like, Jefferson has a team to help him. If you can afford a team, get a team, be everywhere. But I know a lot of people building up their platforms, it's just them.
Yeah.
And my encouragement is to like figure out the platform that your readers are on, and then just get really good at that platform. Just start posting, like, and don't make some crazy challenge for yourself. Just post once a day, once a weekday, see what happens. Start testing out your content. Cause I feel this way in terms of like, I feel like I'm spreading myself too thin if I try to, post to 5 social media sites a day. And so like lately I'm mostly just involved on LinkedIn. But now I'm starting to think, well, should I be on Instagram? Because a lot of authors are on Instagram, and a lot of the people I work with are on Instagram. Yeah. And so those are the things I wrestle with. And then also, like, content wise, go ahead and be a human. Let other people see that you're not just writing a book all the time, that you have other interests. Yeah. But also test out your content, see what works, see what resonates. Because that can also, if you know you're going to publish a book, you can try out your content on social. Yeah. And then you have a better idea of like, well, is this going to work in the book?
What I thought was interesting, and I heard this from, I think this was from Alex Ramosi, but he was talking about, he used, and I think they still do this to a certain extent, but he used Twitter, or X now, but he used X to put out a thought on a topic, right? And some very brief context, just because of the limitation of characters and all that kind of stuff. and he would do, 3 or 4 or 5 of those. And whichever one of those got the most response, he would then take that and make it into more long form content for all of the other platforms at that point. Right. So that's even like doing testing on one platform and using it as kind of like your petri dish of does this work, will this work, right? And then being able to send that out to other places. And I think you could do that with anything, right? I mean, you can do that with Instagram and Facebook and that kind of deal. So, so speaking of Hormozi, I don't know if you watched his book launch, but did you see any?
I didn't see a lot of it, but it was hard not to see it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I saw even people getting offended with how public. I was like, he's selling a book. And he has a huge platform already. So I didn't see a lot of it, but I did see parts of it.
That was super interesting because I think, if I remember correctly, I think he is self-published. He may be working with one of the publishers, but I think they have published those books like by himself. And they sold, I think at last count, like 3,700,000 books in a matter of like a week. Like, it's just ridiculous, right? It just goes back to that whole thing of like, what do you want your book to do? What message are you trying to get out? Who are you trying to talk to? Right. Those things. So, what do you feel like, I mean, as far as social platforms, just to kind of close that out, for what you're doing, where do you see the most activity, or where do you feel like you've got the most influencers, or rather not even necessarily the most influencers? Where do you feel like you have the most influence, or what platform do you feel like you have the most influence on? Doesn't necessarily have to be the one where you have the most followers, but which one do you feel like you get the most engagement on from a writing standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I would say LinkedIn, just because that's where I post most regularly.
Yeah.
What's funny is I do have an email newsletter that has been on hiatus for like 3 months because I was too busy and I was traveling. I actually, just today, I started working on a new template. I'm going to send something out. And I need to make this plug. I don't know if we're going to talk about it or not, but my website was just redesigned.
Yeah.
And
I saw your picture.
First time I've like paid a substantial sum to have it professionally done. I have professional photos. I want to give a shout out to Brennan Davidson, and his company is designgroove.io.
Awesome.
He actually also did Jefferson's site. That's how I first learned of him, because I really liked the design. And so super thrilled with that. I think every author should have a website. No, you don't have to pay for it. But you do need like a digital home. You need some place that you can take people to.
Yeah, you gotta have some place you can point people to, for sure. No, I totally get that. It'll be interesting to see. I've been watching a lot of different content on, I mean, obviously since we started doing some podcasting stuff and, things like that. I've been watching a lot of content on that, and it was interesting because there were some people saying that they feel like, yes, the website is useful, but in the future, they don't know how not viable, but they don't know how important it's going to be as compared to what it used to be. Right. So like, go back 10 years, right? And your website, to your point, it was like your home, it was the home base and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I feel like if you're going to lean on somebody else's platform for all of your stuff and you don't have a website, you're basically ceding some of that control. Because at any point, those people could decide we're no longer going to allow profiles about book writing, which would be ridiculous. But I'm just using an example. Like, you're ceding some of that control on what you post and how you post and some of those kind of things to the platform, right?
Yeah. That's how Fahrenheit 451 started.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Hopefully, if people have read that book.
Yeah.
A couple of thoughts off of that just like flew out of my head. It really did. Oh, you're talking about a website. So when I redesigned my website, I killed my blog. I wasn't really updating it. And even my website designer said, you don't really need it anymore because it's not as important for SEO, which I understand. And then another thing that I came across recently, I was like, and I was surprised I hadn't done this before, is that like, if you're an author, type into ChatGPT or, your AI agent of choice, just type in who is and put in your name.
Yeah.
See what it pulls up. Because if it's not pulling up something close to who you are or what you want to be seen as online, then you have to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah.
And I was grateful that when I wrote that in, I was like, okay, it knows who I am. It's putting out there what I needed to put out there.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I think that you mentioned something key there. I think, like talking about the website, talking about a digital home, talking about some of those things, making sure that it's, as optimized as it can be, for not social media, but for, search. But even beyond that, making sure that it's optimized for AI search.
Yeah.
Because that's becoming a whole other deal. Right. So I think that is a good point. I think, going through and kind of running that test on yourself in the background just to see what happens. Like that totally makes sense. What technology are you the most excited about that you see coming in the next few years? May intertwine with your, writing. It may intertwine with something else, but just technology in general.
Just in general. I don't know. I think about text to video because it's come so far already. Like we're pretty close to where like you may not be able to tell pretty soon if it was AI generated video, but I mostly think about it in terms of like, my son is an actor and he writes stories, and like how cool would it be if I could just throw his script into an AI agent and then he sees it come alive?
Yeah.
Like that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. The creative process of that. Like I would agree with you. And I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of where this goes over the next little bit, because I agree with you. I think it has come a long way from where it was. Right. Mm-hmm. I think there are still some pieces of it that are just a little, it's just like, there's just a piece of it missing. Right. Yeah. But I was watching the thing when Google released their latest version, and they had done a video, basically like a short feature film or whatever, using both like the AI generated stuff, but then also doing like actual shoots with actors and all that kind of stuff. And they blended the two together in a way that like you really kind of couldn't tell where one thing started and where one thing ended, with some of it. So I think there's a lot of technology there that is going to get really interesting in that space. And I think if you pay attention to content, if you're literally just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, you may never pick up on it. But if you're really paying attention, even with some of the AI generated stuff now, like it's kind of, you can kind of spot it still, to a certain standpoint, especially with people in general. I would say it's funny. I was having this conversation with another guest on the show, and they were talking about the troubles with, photo generation and how, for whatever reason, like it has a hard problem with hands. And like, and I've noticed that myself. I was laughing. Exactly. Yeah. You end up with like 8 fingers.
There we go.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. It's so funny to watch that, in the background. But yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm trying to think from a book standpoint, do you think it's ever going to get to the point where paper goes away? Or do you think that there is enough of a following, with people who like the feel of books, who like having a book in their hand, right? Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. But do you think it's ever going to get to a point where that becomes just such a rarity, that books aren't printed the way that they used to be?
I don't think so. I think the book people would start picketing. It'll be like reverse Fahrenheit 451. Like all the book nerds.
Yeah.
Go up in arms and we torch all the Kindles.
Right. Well, it'd be funny.
The Kindles. Make kindling of the Kindles. There we go. Which I have a Kindle, just, I'm not totally against it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hope not. I think there are such ardent people that love books. Yeah. And honestly, let's talk. And I'm pretty sure I've read this somewhere that like books are like some of the most resilient media we have. Because just think about like the world's oldest manuscripts that we still have copies of.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, here's the other thing, like you don't actually own the books on your Kindle that you bought. You've essentially bought a license to put that on your Kindle. Yeah. So Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So at least these things I own, and it's kind of the same way for like streaming video. I can buy a DVD. I will always have that DVD.
Yeah.
I can subscribe to whatever streaming service, and I can hope that the same movie is on there next month that's on there this month.
Right.
So
no,
that's my argument.
Yeah, I think I think you're definitely onto something there for sure, because I think I've had that same thought, right? And for the most part, like, I'd be interested to find out like how that works with some of the other ones, because I think if I remember correctly, I don't know about on Kindle, but I know like on Apple Books, I think I could actually print out a book if I bought it, and like, or turn it into like a PDF or something, right? Mm-hmm. Not to just share and distribute by any means, but like if I just wanted a physical copy, right? You could, I think, print it off, but I'd be curious to see like how that works with some of the other ones. If there are restrictions on some of that, but yeah, that's interesting. What do you feel like's been the most useful for you over the last few years getting into the freelance piece? Do you feel like social medias have given you the reach to be able to do it? Or is it just networking with people in general, that has gotten you to the place where you're at, being able to do it full time?
Yeah. I mean, the straightforward answer is being acknowledged in a book like Atomic Habits goes a long way.
Yeah. So
a little bit of that is, some people might call it luck. You and I would call it providence. But really you have to, like, you still have to show up and do the work.
Yeah.
Like I could have done good work on one project and like drop the ball on another one.
Yeah.
And that would pretty much end the referrals. So doing good work, and it is a lot of connections. Like I am grateful to be going to New York in a couple months for a conference called The Gathering of the Ghosts.
Okay.
For ghostwriters.
That's cool.
Yeah. It just started last year. And what's funny is I know a lot of people that are going to that, but I just know them from online.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is a networking opportunity that I should take advantage of.
Yeah.
Whether or not it leads to more work, of course, I hope it does.
Yeah.
But just to make those connections. And so I'm trying to do that more. I think that's really important, especially if you're a solo freelancer, like find other people in your industry.
Yeah.
And never think that you have to do it alone. Like always ask the questions, be willing to appear dumb, because this is how you grow your business.
It's how everybody starts at anything. You're going to suck at it before you get great. It's just part of the process. Like, and you try and communicate that to people, and like everybody wants to, like, I want to skip 12 steps and like get to a place where I make $1 million a year. And whatever. It's like,
great.
It just doesn't work that way. Like even the people who like have great ideas, who, create software that overnight makes them a multimillionaire or whatever. A lot of effort and time has gone into creating whatever the product is, having the idea, working out the kinks, figuring out whatever the deal is. Even if the actual programming itself only took 15 minutes, your life experience up to that point is the thing that gave you the intuition, the whatever you want to call it, to be able to say, this is a need, this is something that people need, and I'm going to create this because this is something that people need and it will sell wildly or whatever, right? So it's like everybody assumes that you can achieve this overnight, quote unquote, overnight success, but 9 times out of 10, it's, I think Dave Ramsey said it. It's like, we're a 10-year overnight success, right? Yeah. Because I think he was talking about when they got on Oprah or one of the shows, and then all of a sudden everything just blew up, but they'd been doing it in the background for the last 10 years, really grinding it out like you're talking about. And I think there's a much bigger piece to that. I mean, again, like what you sacrifice now and what you put in now, like if you're intentional with it, you're going to reap a harvest from that in the future at some point. Like that's just kind of the way that goes. You just need to make sure that you're sowing in the right places and tending in the right places and all that.
Have you read Stephen Pressfield's Do the Work?
No, but I will put that on my reading list.
There you go. That's what I thought about.
That would be a good one. Yeah. It is.
You've already done the work though. Come on.
Well, no, not there's still plenty of work to be done. Trust me. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. So thank you for coming on the show. Just as a side note for everybody, this is the second time we've recorded this show because we had some issues on our side. So we talked about technology and how everything should work and all of those kind of things. But like one of the things to note is there are going to be times that you screw up and things happen and you just have to roll with it and move on. And this is one of those times. We had to reschedule this from a couple months ago when we recorded the first time. So thank you for taking the time again to come on and have a conversation about all this, and tell folks where they can find you, and if there's any other closing thoughts that you've got. Floor's open.
The floor is open. My website is blakeatwood.com. It looks amazing, and not because I'm on it, just because of the people who helped me with it. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, mostly, somewhat on Instagram. I'm working on a lot of projects right now.
Nice.
But grateful to be busy, to the point where I'm not really accepting work until next year. So that's good. But honestly, if people have questions, they want to reach out, they can go to my website, my email address, which I really should have thought about this before I made it my email address. Because here's the thing, is when I say it, you're not going to understand it. My email address is blake@blakeatwood.com. You might understand it because of the way I said it.
Yes.
If I had been a wiser man a long time ago, because I've had my domain name for a long time, thankfully, but I thought it would have been better. I've thought this before. It would have been better if I would have just gotten wood.com.
Yeah.
WOOD. So I could have been blake@wood.com, which could be even more confusing.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You could change it up and just do info@blakeatwood.com.
I know, but I've had it for so long, I got to keep it. So it's BLAKE
yes,
blakeatwood.com. If you want to email me with any questions. I don't take on a lot of projects, but I am glad when possible to refer people to other publishing professionals that I know.
Yeah.
Because I never want an author to feel unheard, or because I've been in that position.
Yeah.
Or as if there's no one out there to help them. Because sometimes it just takes a little persistence to find that other person who can help you get your book to the finish line.
Yeah. And I mean, do you find that it's as much about having some kind of a chemistry with that person to be able to work with them on their project?
Yeah. I've turned down a lot of projects for a lot of reasons. But it's always nice to hear when I refer them to somebody and they wind up working with that person and then it goes great. Like that is best case scenario.
Even better. Yeah. No, I think, we do things very similarly with the technology business. It's the same type of situation. It's like, you don't want to turn people away, but at the same time, you don't want to, point them to somebody that's not going to do a great job or whatever. Mm-hmm. That feedback. That's always great. Awesome. Blake, thanks for taking the time, man. This was fantastic. I appreciate it.
You're welcome again.
Thanks.